Good morning and welcome to Today in the News here in Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adeomi. Flipping to the newspapers for today, starting with Vanguard major headline on Vanguard says, "Don't just reform, cut waste. Sanusi, Peterside tell federal government. Challenge leaders on accountability, economic discipline, if reforms must work. Why do we need 48 ministers, long convoys, endless travels, says Sanusi. Benefits of subsidy removal can only be realized through proper governance, says Peterside. Tinubu's reforms already yielding results, says Edu. What he calls for leadership discipline, human capital investments to unlock Africa's prosperity. Major story can be found on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Top banner, First Bank vindicated. Arbitration Tribunal dismisses GHL's $780 million claim. Enugu emerges likeliest state to survive without FAC allocation, says budget. Lagos government, Oroshoki residents defer over demolitions. Senate NSITF takeover. Declaration of war on workers, says NLC. Threatens directive halting workers' fund deductions, remittance. We have received threats from terrorists to bomb NASS. Reps raise alarm. I have been banned from US, says Shoyinka. And lastly, on Vanguard newspaper, reps to probe NFF over $25 million FIFA grant. Away from the Vanguard into the Punch newspaper, major headline on the Punch says, Hurricane Tinubu, Taraba, Plateau, Adamawa governors face defection dilemma. Kefa, Muftawang, political realignment looms. Fintiri holds ground. Planned defection unsettles state APC leaders. Top banner, visa cancellation. Why snubbed U.S. Embassy's summons, says Shoyinka, and released stranded as NHIA server failure drags into weeks. Coup controversy, military interrogates MD, raids ex-governor's house. Senate set to grill new service chiefs today. And lastly, on the Punch newspaper, states to earn over 4 trillion naira yearly from VAT reforms. Away from the Punch, straight into the Guardian newspaper. Major headline on the Guardian says, election year to test Nigeria's reform momentum, growth recovery. Manufacturing endangers as sector sheds 18,935 jobs in H1 2025. Reps raise alarm over terrorist threat to bomb National Assembly. Power tussle rocks APC as leaders split over Muftang defection. Obi worries about drug trafficking through courier service. Minister, the Guardian partner on national youth reorientation. And lastly, Nigeria among least connected by air despite huge potential. That's all we have on the front page of the newspapers this morning. Join us after the break for a quick analysis of some of our top stories. Welcome back. If you're just tuned in, this is Today in the News here on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adewumi. Joining me in the studio today for a quick analysis is Mr. Gbero Olajigbe, Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Lat. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ololade.
I look into a first story for today. The 16th Emir of Kano is Royal Highness Muhammadu Sanusi II and renowned economics and Dr. Atedo Peterside said yesterday that the reforms of the federal government would not translate into real gains for Nigerians unless there's a deliberate effort to cut down on the cost of governance. They expressed that while the federal government reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidy, are welcome, real gains will only come if the government also cuts wasteful spending and exercises economic discipline. The statement made by Sanusi and Peterside, would you say they're correct? For him to have said that the reform isn't enough.
Well, what I know about the so-called reform is that the reform, I heard them say, of course, both of them actually validated the removal of fuel subsidy, and at the same time, that I heard Sanusi saying that if it had been done during Jonathan, the pain would not have been like this. And Atedo Peterside was saying that in spite of even the removal, That is not a yardstick to measure. It's not a metric for good implementation of reform. If they call it reform indeed. For example, the end beneficiaries of any reform is what you are going to look at. When you look at the policy environment, the end beneficiary, that's why I shout every day, because you can really predict this government from beginning. You can predict the end of the reform by the way the culture of the government itself, the governance culture. You will know that the reform is not going to benefit the poor people. It's going to disarm the poor people and rearm the rich people by making them to get richer, by making the lesser one to get poorer. And you may ask me, what do I mean by this? For example, look at let's just take one, the one they validated that, okay, remove fuel subsidy. If fuel subsidy is removed, but who is bearing the brunt with it? They are getting more money, but we never bother about where the money is coming from. I've said it without number. Federal government is not creating, it's not that the money is coming from production. And that is where revenue should actually come from. The revenue that is taxable should come from production. But here, you are getting money from oil by imposing, what is not a removal of fuel subsidy in the first place. It's government shifting the burden to the people. Look, we are talking of assuming that the price of fuel today is $72 in the market. By the time you translate that to Naira, you know what it means. Multiply by 100, assuming that it's even 1,400 Naira. You know the enormity and everything. And your average, the money you pay for workers, the average is 70,000 Naira. And they are going to pay transport from this. The transport they are paying has taken chunk out of their income. And to the extent that the disposable income is further shrunk, and then the capacity to purchase, the capacity to save, the capacity to consume they are diminished. I mean those on the fringe of the economy. But the poor, the other one, of course, those who are rich, of course they get richer because they are the one who can muscle enough. Of course, poor people don't even talk of having access to dollar in the first place, or foreign currency and everything. And another one I will pick, which they often call reform, is a silent killer of housing development in Nigeria, because they didn't touch all this now. And they don't know, except we do diligent analysis, we will not know why, for example, why cement, why are they selling it 11,000 per bag today? It's not because of price mechanism. It's because of a reckless policy that has relegated the use of asphalt for building road. Most of the cement now, Dangote is pumping into building of roads, and it's hardly available. And of course, they have ready market with government who is ready to pay any amount without the interchange of supply and demand mechanism that determines price. And then they can now fix the price of cement to whatever they like. It's a Shylock economy. It's what the Yoruba will call Agbalowo Mary economy that they are running. Collecting from those who don't have in order to further enrich the powerful, the rich one. That is what is going on. That is not the idea of a reform that will create egalitarian society. It's not a type of reform that will bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. It is not a type of reform that will close the gap of inequality. That is what I've been saying. A progressive reform must be pro-poor, not pro-rich. That is, when you want to take a decision on a policy issue, what will happen to the poor person? That should be the central question of any development-conscious country. That is what you call development in a development economic principle, is that what will happen to the poor? not how the rich will recklessly benefit. Secondly, of course, I know that Peterside spoke about that, but not to the level that I wanted him to have explained. For example, he was saying that, look, you can get all the revenue you want. This is the only country where I see that people will say that, before, this one is just hypothetical. Before Tinubu came, the revenue was 4 trillion. Now, he has increased the revenue generating 12 trillion revenue. Have you asked yourself, where is that revenue going? Is he not going to put in petrol in 44 cars that the president will use to the airport that are needless, or what the governor will do? Where is he going? That is the issue. It's not about getting money. And the problem of getting money without purpose and without plan, without consider the consequences. The consequences is that when people get poorer, they become agitative. When they become agitative, they become extremely against their society. The preponderance of violence, crisis, conflict, and violent extremism that you see in Nigeria today is because of extreme poverty. There's a correlation between extreme poverty and extreme violence. Then, is government not foolish? Because when you get revenue, that revenue now, you are using it to purchase arms and ammunition so that people who ordinarily should not have become perpetrators of violence. But because of you are using it to kill them or to destroy them. Is it not money kobo-wise and naira foolish? So where is the revenue? Even assuming that now you are still maintaining over 40 ministers and you have created new ministries, Ministry of Livestock, and you can still create one at your impulse. Then, is this how government should be run? United States is richer than Nigeria 499 times. The statistics is not recent. It's even worse now. The statistics is worse now. And United States, including the office of the vice president, is having 16 ministries. And we're having 44. Where is the development going to come from? You can see them. Most of the people we have in the national set talking of creating more states. How will that benefit the poor? Rather than those who will compete to become governor and become this and become that. So we open new nodes for spreading of poverty every day and mostly in every policy. Look, we will compare notes later. The same people that were clapping for Buhari when I was laying foundation for Nigeria progress, and after 8 years, we were worse than when Buhari took over in 2015. After his 8 years. I just pray the same story will not be told of Tinubu. Because all this busybody, sycophant, singing song of glory, song of praises now, they will still come back to say that the man was so bad that it out-borrowed Buhari. Because he's doing most of this thing with borrowing, creating buffer for the foreign, for the money we have in foreign safe, and increasing it so as to have an appearance of stability in exchange rate and an experience or a deceptive notion that the economy is getting better. Economy is not getting better. That is the fact. It's not getting better. But if they say it's getting better, for who? Not for the poor, definitely. And the purpose of any economy, create avenue for the poor to be lifted out of poverty. That is when what that does is that it's not that it's going to lead to good life for poor people alone who are poor before. It's going to lead to a stable society. Because those who ordinarily should become criminal because they are poor, they could see hope. When there is a depletion of employment market, young people who are not getting job, who are being recruited for crisis today, if they're able to get job and economic gap, those are the parameters you use. Those are the metric that makes sense when you are measuring development economy, how it's performing. Not all this manipulation that everyone is doing today in order to clap for a president that is insensitive to what the poor man, average poor Nigeria is going through. So I listened to their this thing is half true.
Sanusi actually specifically criticized the bloated size and the cost of governance. In your view, what will you say are the key areas of waste in this present government?
The governance system, the governance itself is creating that avenue of waste. I was thinking that when Tinubu came into office, of course, there was a constitutional constraint that a minister should come from each of the state of the federation. I was saying that I was thinking that at a minimum, for a president that is not going to be wasteful, well, it will just abide for that with that 36 and not 40-something ministers. And I was thinking that it will say that this is unacceptable. It will even create avenue to tinker with the amendment of the constitution so that we don't need to have minister in all states of the federation. At least you can say that we can have in the city zone of the country, even though you can have two per zone and a minister not more than 18, not more than 3 from each zone of the country. If you want it to be, Nigeria does not deserve to have more than. If America is having 16 secretaries, Nigeria doesn't deserve to be having 40-something ministers. That is part of our culture of waste. That one, that is what it could easily eliminate. One, by abiding with the constitution strictly, without adding anyone. Secondly, in order to improve on what he has done, if he had done that at the threshold of his administration, by sponsoring a bill, executive bill, amending that part of our constitution, you will have close, if not at least conservatively, 15% of the loopholes that we have in our ministry. Do you know how many people guiding minister, how many special assistant to special assistant to special assistant to personal assistants that they recruit that are doing nothing, that are just political patrons, that had no value to the economy of Nigeria rather than being consumers? It's a strong avenue. I'm not even talking of the corrupt propensity to be corrupt that is attached to every position and opportunities in the Nigerian governance system. Do you know how many blockade would that have been to the waste, the character of waste that we have in the country today? Do you know what if we are truly making money and they are generating money? What about this reckless borrowing, unending borrowing that we have? Look, statistics means nothing at times because there's what we call politics of statistics. Is it not the same World Bank that praised them once, that told them that they are heading to be the capital of poverty today by the reason of what they are borrowing? Fact make them happy this week now. But another one will come and eradicate that. They accepted that, but they didn't accept the report of World Bank that said that Nigerians are getting poorer. So they accept the statistics they want that is beautiful to them. They don't want to read about ugly statistics. But those ugly statistics are a reflection of the faces of Nigerians on the street. They are a reflection of the pockets of Nigerians in their home. They are a reflection of the faces of Nigerian child that cannot go to school again. They are a reflection of 37% of Nigerians who go to bed hungry on daily basis. Those are the real statistics, and not a manipulated paper document, paper figure to make government happy and to masturbate the ego of those who govern.
Away from that, into a second story. The House of Representatives Committee on Internal Security, chaired by Garba Ibrahim Mohammed, revealed that the National Assembly complex in Abuja has received threats from terrorists to bomb the facility. During a public hearing on a proposed bill HB 1632 to establish a legislative security directorate for the National Assembly, the chairman listed multiple security lapses: theft of vehicles and motorcycles, vandalism, fake identity cards, unregistered visitors gaining access, and a large inflow of people, making the complex even more vulnerable. He warned that if such threats and internal security breaches aren't addressed, legislative activities could be disrupted. How significant is this disclosure, from by Garba Ibrahim Mohammed of threats to actually bomb the National Assembly? What does this say about the danger currently in Nigeria?
Personally, it's not significant to me. It's not significant in the sense that what is significant to me, they are the life of the people, recklessly terminated in the faraway Zamfara, in this nearby Benue, in the fringes of Nigeria, the villages, those that are helpless, defenseless, those that are not protected because of the failure of the state to protect them. Those are my concern. And it flows like this. If you cannot protect the weak, you cannot defend the rich. You cannot defend the powerful if you cannot protect the weak. That is the philosophy of security. And that is what I have been saying. If you don't safeguard human security, there can't be national security. That is given. It's a principle. It's the absolute law of a country that wants to get out of problem of insecurity. So, what does it mean to me? The life of an average person in Zamfara that has no will for his family, if they die, matter to me than those who have capacity to leave will behind for their children if they are bombed. Nobody deserves to die extrajudicially in Nigeria, whether you are rich or poor. And the fact to remember is that if you don't do anything to rescue the poor, the helpless from the hopeless condition they have found themselves, there's nothing you can do about your own. Because it has been given by J.F. Kennedy, an open society that cannot protect the many that are poor, cannot defend the few that are rich. So, what does it matter? Is the life of those in National Assembly better than those in the farming Zamfara that are massacred? So all of us should get brain reset and come together, that until we feel the pain of those in Benue, the pain of those in Plateau, the pain of those in Castina, the pain of those in the southeast and other places of Nigeria, we cannot get umbrella for protection even for the powerful. They said that if you oppress the poor and it gets to a level, you starve them. They are used to starvation to the extent that there's nothing left for them, not even a grain for them to eat. They will turn to the rich and begin to eat the rich. That is the state we shouldn't get to as a nation. Well, so I'm not bothered about the security report of on the National Assembly. To me, I'm bothered about security report of the Okiagbe in Akoko that DSS pushed out recently, in those states, of a possible attack of Onyi Akoko, those fringes, those communities who have no soldiers guiding them, who has no police guiding them like those in the National Assembly. So if if the wet wood or wet tree could be lamenting, what are they expecting the dry one to say? So they know what security is and they bother about it. Even though they are in the heart of Abuja, the center of Abuja, they are talking of they want to bomb them. What have they done about those that they are bombing elsewhere or killing everywhere, extrajudicially? So we should talk about another thing. If they like, they should make a special law for them, immune them from a thing. Of course, they can could even open a sense of them doing one allocation now that each of them should be given bulletproof car and bulletproof agbada, so that we will know that they are special Nigerians, or they want to collect security allowance again.
Let's look at the bill for a legislative security directorate. The bill aims to actually create a dedicated security directorate inside the National Assembly. Do you think this practice is actually effective from your view?
Is that what again? I didn't hear you.
Let's look at the legislative security directorate bill that they're about to create. The bill aims to create a dedicated security directorate inside the National Assembly. How effective do you think this practice will be?
That is outright rubbish. It doesn't happen anywhere. What is special about their life in the first place? These are the things that provoke Nigerians. That is the issue with waste we have. That is what is causing this crisis. When some people are protected, some people are not protected. Is that a just society? How long are you going to get protected? Won't you leave the National Assembly? What becomes of you when you get out of there? Any security thought that is not motivated by a sense of justice to everybody is bound to fail. It's a pure waste of time, waste of resources, and it will end up in absolute rubbish. Nothing will be achieved by it. Are they going to reside inside National Assembly forever for 24 hours? They should think of the larger community. That's when they can be protected. The nucleus, if the membrane of egg is bad, it is a matter of time before the nucleus die off. Because the two are linked together. Even though there is a membrane between the shell and the rest. As a matter of fact, if you pick an egg and you have not cooked it and you remove the shell, as useful as disposable the shell is, will the egg remain? The egg will not remain. I'm not talking of cooked egg. The egg will not remain. So that is the absolute, as a matter of fact, that has been projected into protection mechanism. We call it egg analysis, egg model of protection egg model. I'm not joking about this. It's professional, it's acceptable, it has been developed, it's a global concept and model for protection.
Yeah, comments.
So they should stop wasting Nigerian money and talking cheaply and senselessly.
There are comments from people, outside saying that, as well as critics, saying that the parliament itself should be, open, should be accessible to the public, especially for democratic transparency.
Should we even debate it? Should we even say it? Is this not even annoying? Is it not a provocation? In the context of the larger security you have, you want to protect yourself. Should they even contemplate this? A reasonable legislator. Should a reasonable legislator talk about that at all? They don't care about the fact that terrorists are collecting taxes from the farmers and every other. So you want to be protected. Even though you are still inside Abuja, you are inside a protected place that has even security before now. Oh my God. You see White House, if you visit Washington, you can go to White House. You can pass through the front of 10 Downing Street in London. Do you see anything special about it? You can walk to the Buckingham Palace and see a lot of people hovering along the palace and every other. This is an imperial thought that has combated citizenship issue of being subjects. Nigerians are not citizens, are not treated as citizens. They are treated as subjects because of the imperial system they have got. I wrote something last year. This is the only country that continue to enable their own victimization, enable their own oppressor. One, there is nothing called honorable member. It's not constitutional. They are member of the House. There is nothing called distinguished senator. It's not, it's a creation, an imperial creation. They are senator. It's only in this country you find that rubbish. And because you have powered them, you have enabled them to think that they are special from others, and see that, look at the rubbish they are doing. The shenanigan, thinking that they are special species, considering themselves to be bosses over Nigeria. Who gave them the job? These are things that will never lead to development of any country. Will never lead to security and peace in any nation. I've just spoken about inequality. These are drivers of violent extremism. You don't use law to begin to create atmosphere for inequality. Because inequality itself is the chief driver of violence in Nigeria today. Some people are going to school, but some children cannot go because of access. They don't have the money, they don't have the school fees. Some people are sick and they can get to hospital. Some cannot go. And you think those people will love the society? And they will watch you enjoying your loot too. And they have the atmosphere of inequality. So most of the crisis and violence you see in Nigeria today flow from this type of thoughtlessness by the parliament, by the members of the parliament, of creating special security and protection mechanism for themselves.
Thank you very much for joining us today, sir. Time is fast spent.
Lola, it's a pleasure being with you and your crew. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Mr. Gbinrola JP, Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert. Remember, you can follow us on all our social media platforms as seen on your screen. For up-to-date stories at our website, it's www.vanguardngr.com. My name